Let's cut to the chase. Nobody should have the power to make you feel small, not with their words, not with their actions, not with a single glance. Yet, it's something we all face at one point or another. People will test your limits, disregard your feelings, and sometimes blatantly disrespect you. Today, we're going to tackle some straightforward, perhaps even provocative strategies to deal with such challenges without compromising your cool or your dignity. So, if you're tired of feeling like you're at the mercy of others' disrespect, you're in the right place. The first strategy is what I like to call the silent stare. It sounds almost too simple, right? But don't underestimate its impact. There's a real power in this technique. It's rooted in one of the fundamental teachings of Stoic philosophy, which is all about controlling our reactions and mastering our emotions. When someone disrespects you, your natural instinct might be to react immediately, to defend yourself, or to call them out. But here's the thing, reacting in the heat of the moment often plays right into the hands of the person being disrespectful. They're often looking to provoke a reaction, to throw you off balance, or make you feel small. So instead of reacting with words, try simply holding a calm, steady gaze. The silent stare, when done correctly, shifts the power dynamic entirely. Imagine it. Someone says something rude or demeaning, expecting you to fire back or get flustered. But instead, you meet their eyes with a calm, unbothered gaze, showing them that their words have no effect on you. There's something about this silent, steady reaction that unsettles people. They're waiting for you to engage, and when you don't, they're left alone with their own behavior. The Stoics believed that our true power lies in our ability to remain unmoved by the actions of others, and this technique exemplifies that principle perfectly. I'll share a personal example to illustrate just how effective this can be. I was once in a meeting where a particular colleague kept interrupting me. You know the type, overconfident, talking over others, and making it clear he thought his opinions were more valuable than anyone else's. At first, I tried the usual tactics, polite interjections, waiting for my turn to speak, but he continued cutting me off. Instead of escalating the situation by trying to talk over him, I decided to try the silent stare. I leaned back slightly, crossed my arms, and looked at him without blinking, letting the silence hang in the air. In just a few seconds, something shifted. He started to fumble over his words, glancing around the room as if looking for support, but all eyes were on him. He suddenly looked uncomfortable, as if he realized he was the only one talking. That silent stare spoke volumes, conveying a simple but powerful message. I see what you're doing, and I'm not impressed. After that meeting, his behavior toward me noticeably changed. He didn't interrupt me again, and over time he started treating me with more respect. The silent stare didn't just work in that single moment, it set a precedent for all future interactions. It's amazing how something as small as a steady gaze can have a lasting impact. The beauty of this technique is that it requires no words, no drama, and no escalation. It's a quiet, dignified way of asserting yourself and reclaiming your power. Stoicism teaches us that we don't have to play by other people's rules or give in to their provocations. By choosing silence and refusing to engage, we're setting our own terms. So, next time someone tries to push your buttons, remember the silent stare. It's a way of saying, without a word, I respect myself too much to stoop to this level. Now let's talk about another powerful Stoic approach, using silence as a strong statement. Silence can feel like a strange response in our society, where we're often taught to stand up for ourselves by speaking out. But here's the thing, silence, when used intentionally, is far from passive. It's one of the most active responses you can choose. In Stoic philosophy, silence is a way to guard our inner peace and energy, avoiding unnecessary conflicts that drain us and disrupt our sense of calm. When someone disrespects us, we naturally feel an urge to defend ourselves, to correct them, or to prove our worth. But responding often gives that person exactly what they want, our energy and attention. By choosing silence, we're making a powerful statement that their negativity isn't worth even a second of our time or energy. Choosing silence is not about being weak or submissive. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's about knowing that your worth doesn't need to be defended. You are showing, both to yourself and to others, that you are grounded enough to rise above petty comments. This can be especially effective when dealing with people who use passive-aggressive tactics. Take, for example, a time when I faced a person who consistently made snide remarks, disguised as jokes. Instead of firing back or attempting to explain myself, I decided to simply let the comments sit in the air, unaddressed. I looked at the person, offered a polite but neutral expression, and said nothing. The silence was powerful. It allowed their words to echo back to them and made their behavior stand out. This type of silence has a way of making the disrespectful person uncomfortable, often even more than a direct response would. When there's no reaction, no engagement, they're left to confront the weight of their own words. It's almost as if you're holding up a mirror, allowing them to see themselves without your interference. Over time, this approach can actually discourage further disrespect. People start to realize that they won't get the reaction or satisfaction they're seeking from you, and often they'll adjust their behavior. Silence also does something else that's really important. It reinforces our own self-respect. By choosing not to engage, we're essentially telling ourselves, I don't need validation or approval from this person, and I don't need to stoop to their level to defend myself. This is a powerful reminder that our sense of self-worth is internal, not something to be given or taken by someone else's words. In many ways, silence becomes a shield, protecting our peace and maintaining our control over the situation. And as we continue to choose silence in these moments, we build a stronger foundation of self-respect that only grows over time. So the next time you're faced with negativity or passive-aggressive comments, remember that silence is a choice, and a powerful one. You're not ignoring the situation, you're choosing to rise above it. You're demonstrating that your peace, your time, and your energy are worth more than an argument or a defense. And that's a message worth sending, both to the other person and to yourself. The third strategy is all about breaking free from the need to explain our choices. This is a tough one because, let's be honest, we all want to be understood. We make decisions that feel right for us, and when others question those choices, it can be tempting to dive into detailed explanations, as if we need to prove our reasoning. But here's the truth that Stoicism teaches us. We don't owe anyone an explanation for the paths we choose to walk. Our decisions are ours alone, and if we're constantly justifying them, we're not only giving away our peace, but also letting others have too much say in our lives. Stoicism encourages us to be confident in our choices, knowing that they align with our values, even if others don't see it the same way. Think about it. How many times have you made a personal decision only to face a barrage of whys from others? Why did you leave that job? Why are you pursuing this career? Why didn't you attend that event? And each time you feel the urge to explain, as if their understanding somehow validates your decision. But the more we engage in these explanations, the more we're telling ourselves that our choices need to be approved by others. In reality, they don't. This need to justify can chip away at our confidence, making us second-guess decisions we once felt sure about. And that's exactly what we're trying to avoid. I remember when I made a big career change. It was something I felt deeply passionate about, but it came with a lot of uncertainty. Naturally, people had questions, some even sounded genuinely worried for me, and at first I felt obligated to explain myself. I'd go on and on about how this new path felt fulfilling, how I had a plan, how I'd done my research. But no matter how well I explained it, the questions kept coming, as if my reasons were never quite enough to satisfy them. After a while, I started to see how draining it was. It was like I was constantly justifying my own happiness and my own dreams. And then something shifted. Instead of explaining, I started replying with something simple. It was the right choice for me. It felt strange at first because I was so used to giving long explanations, but it was also incredibly freeing. People would ask, and instead of getting pulled into a whole conversation about my life choices, I'd calmly say, it was the right choice for me. I didn't owe them anything more. This response shifted the dynamic entirely. It wasn't defensive or dismissive. It was simply a statement of confidence. Most people accepted it and moved on, and the questions started to dwindle. I realized then that by not explaining myself, I was actually reinforcing my belief in my decision. The power in not explaining is that it allows you to stand firm in who you are and what you believe. When we stop feeling the need to justify every choice, we're telling ourselves that our values, our goals, and our happiness are valid simply because they matter to us. This is an essential aspect of self-respect. It's also a reminder that our choices don't need an audience's approval. They don't need to be understood or agreed with by everyone to be right for us. This is about owning your life, your path, and your reasons without feeling the need to seek permission. So next time someone questions a decision you've made, consider responding with confidence rather than explanation. A simple "it felt right" or "it was my choice" can end the conversation and keep you grounded in your own truth. Remember, the people who genuinely respect you won't need endless explanations, and the people who do won't be satisfied with any answer you give. By choosing not to explain, you're reinforcing a powerful message that your life is yours to live and that your decisions are enough simply because they align with your inner values. Embrace this freedom. Your choices are a reflection of who you are, and they need no justification beyond that. Our fourth strategy is one of the most powerful tools for maintaining peace, creating distance from those who consistently disrespect us. This is such an important concept in Stoic philosophy. The Stoics taught us to focus on what we can control, and one of the things fully within our control is deciding who we allow into our lives and how close we allow them to get. Creating distance doesn't have to be an act of hostility. It's simply an act of self-care and boundary setting. If someone's behavior is continuously negative or disrespectful, then it's perfectly reasonable to take a step back. This isn't about holding grudges or avoiding people out of anger. It's about protecting your peace. We often feel guilty about creating this kind of distance, especially when the person is someone we've known for a long time, or even a family member. Society sometimes tells us that we're supposed to be endlessly forgiving and that we should keep everyone close, no matter how they treat us. But think about it. If someone constantly drains you, makes you feel bad about yourself, or disregards your boundaries, then what are they adding to your life? Sometimes the most loving thing we can do, for ourselves and for them, is to give ourselves the space we need to breathe and recharge. I've personally experienced the power of this approach. I had a friend who was frankly exhausting to be around. She always had something negative to say, whether it was about her own life, the people around her, or even my choices. At first I brushed it off, thinking, that's just her personality. But over time I realized how drained and anxious I felt after spending time with her. I was constantly walking on eggshells, bracing myself for her next criticism or complaint. Eventually, I decided to put some distance between us. I didn't make a big announcement or confront her about it. I simply started limiting our interactions. Instead of meeting her every week, I saw her once a month. Instead of daily calls, I'd send the occasional text. This small change was life-changing. Without that constant negativity weighing on me, I found that I had more energy and emotional space to invest in relationships that were positive and supportive. I could focus on friends who encouraged me, who celebrated my successes, and who respected my boundaries. The impact on my mental health was profound. I felt lighter, happier, and far less stressed. And here's the interesting part. As I stepped back, I realized that the friendship had been more about habit than genuine connection. I didn't actually miss the constant negativity, and I didn't miss the drama. Creating distance is often misunderstood as something harsh or unkind, but that couldn't be further from the truth. It's actually one of the most respectful things you can do for both yourself and the other person. You're respecting your own need for peace, while also acknowledging that the relationship in its current form isn't